In today's video, we're talking about studio photography using a one light setup. My name is Jesse. I'm a portrait, fitness, and fitness fashion photographer living and working here in Los Angeles. Adding studio lighting to your skill set, whether you're a portrait or a fashion photographer, can be really valuable because this allows you to have consistency with your lighting, no matter what time of the day it is, no matter what the weather conditions are. You are in complete control of your light. And you can set up your light anywhere. I once got a gig where I had to shoot 400 portraits spread out between 16 different locations. I used their lobby to set up my backdrop and my light and executed the shoot, and every single portrait matched perfectly. Let's go over the basics, starting with your camera settings. Since we're not using continuous light, none of your automatic settings will work, so you have to switch your camera into manual mode. For white balance, I like to use either auto white balance or the flash setting. I take my ISO down to the lowest native ISO the camera has. In my case, I'm using an EOS R, so the lowest is 100 ISO. My aperture, I usually start at f8 and move the power on the back of the light up or down to get the proper exposure. Your shutter speed, I always start at 1/25th of a second. There is a max sync speed of 1/200th of a second for Canon, so I stay just below that. Check your camera manual to see what yours is if you have a different manufacturer than Canon. If you do go above the sync speed, you'll know right away because you'll see little black bars go across your picture. Basically, what's happening is your shutter is opening and closing before all the light gets in from the strobe. So to avoid that, you just stay below your maximum sync speed and you should be fine. One more camera setting that might not apply to everybody is if you're using a mirrorless system. I switched over, so I started with DSLRs using strobes and then moved into mirrorless, and I set all my settings like I normally do. I put my sync on top of the camera and then went to take a photo and the screen was completely black. So what happens is you have an exposure simulation that is in your EVF, your electronic viewfinder. So if you do have this happen, I'm not sure if all syncs will do this, but my Pocket Wizard Plus 3 did not automatically turn off the exposure simulation, so you just have to go into your menu, look for exposure simulation, and then disable that, and then you'll have your screen up and you can use your autofocus and everything. All right, now that you got your camera set, we need to synchronize our strobe with our shutter releasing. I use the Pocket Wizard Plus 3 radio transmitter. You're gonna need two. You're gonna need a receiver and a transmitter. So one goes on top of your camera in the hot shoe, and the other one goes on the back of your light in the sync port. All right, let's get into the light. So you're gonna need a light stand, a strobe, and a modifier, something to sculpt or shape the light. The strobe, there's lots of different options out there and they vary in price. Some are as cheap as $100 and then some are as expensive as $2,500. It's crazy. I will do a little research and leave a couple links in the description below. Maybe this will help you out. The modifiers for the really high-end lighting, those are also really expensive too. So I think starting with a lower cost version at the beginning, see if you like studio lighting, and then move up as you progress. I put together some sample images from a test shoot that I did late last year using 4 different modifiers. I'm gonna go through some of these images with you and describe where I placed my light, why I put it where I did, and some of the settings that I used. All right, let's get into these images. I put 2 side by side just so you could see the shadow that the light cast. I had a 4-foot octabox placed directly above my lens, about 9 feet in the air, angled at a 45-degree angle. This gives off a nice flattering light. It's called butterfly lighting. I did have a small bounce card, 3 foot by 3 foot, that I would use for the close-up. I placed this underneath my camera as close as I could get so that it didn't enter my frame. For the next look, I had the same distance, the same modifier, except I moved the light 45 degrees camera right. This gives a little bit more shadow, gives a little bit more mood to the image. You can see as she moved back, there was a little bit less shadow on her face because the light was feathering across. And here I moved the model around to change the shape of the light instead of moving my light around. You can see the image on the right. I had her angle her chin directly in line with my light stand. In this next set of images, I had her move forward slightly. This decreased the amount of feathering on her face, increasing the darkness of the shadows, giving a complete different look, and it's just a small movement that made the biggest difference. This was our last look on our green backdrop. We switched the light modifier to a 7-foot white umbrella. It offers a nice, big, soft light source. You can see it lights her from top to bottom. We only got a few shots with this look and then we switched it up. Moving on to the black background, the modifier I used was a 22-inch white beauty dish. The image on the left is using a grid, so you can see the fall off is really fast. And the image on the right is no grid, so you can see some of the light spill on the background, making it dark gray instead of complete black. The next set of images are the same white beauty dish, positioned directly over my lens, about 1 foot from the model. If you're trying to use a beauty dish for a full body shot, you might have to pull it back a little bit because the fall off puts her feet into complete shadow. In this next set, we changed wardrobe, but left the light exactly where it was and put the grid back on. Neither one of us liked the look during the day of the shoot, so we switched up the light modifier back to our octa box, back to the 45-degree position. Now you see she's wearing a light set of clothes on a dark background. See that there's almost even light from the top to the bottom. We just doubled the size of the light source. And also notice there is a nice light spill on the background, separating our model from the background. I think this is a really great look for a dramatic portrait. And this is our last look. Hopefully by now you are picking out your favorites. You know which modifier you want to start working with or experimenting with. This last look is a bare bulb. With a bare bulb, I generally try to put it as far away from my subject as possible. That way the light spreads out. Notice the hard shadows, notice the hard light. This is the closest you'll get to a direct sun look. If you're trying to replicate that in the studio, this is how you do it. And in this example, I just wanted to show you how you could change your white backdrop into a gray backdrop just by changing the position of your light. I changed my light modifier from a bare bulb back to the white beauty dish. We moved off the backdrop about 5 feet, positioned the light just over my lens, 1 foot from my model's face. All right, so let's wrap this up. As you can see, a one light setup is very versatile. You can do a lot of different things with it. You might need different modifiers, but I would suggest just picking your favorite out of the ones that I showed you. Grab that, practice with it, try different angles, try different settings, see what fits your style, see what fits your taste, and then go from there. Build and build and build as an artist, as a creative. Get out there, keep creating. I'll see you in the next video.